Okay, we're going to finish up 4.3 in this video, and we're starting with example 6, investment. We've got $1,000 that were invested over a period of 3 years at an interest rate of X percent. Okay, we don't know. Compounded annually. The future value Y of the investment is given by Y equals, basically Y and f of X are the same. Here's the formula. So what this formula says, that if I invest $1,000 for 3 years at some interest rate, at the end of 3 years, I'm going to have this much money, Y. Okay, so I'm going to have $1,000, get that back, plus whatever money I made in interest. So I know it's going to be more than $1,000, at least hopefully it is. So that's the formula. All right, so that's the information they give us. Now what are we going to do? A. To find the interest rate X that results in future value Y, find the inverse function. Okay, so what I have to do in order to solve this is I have to find the inverse function. That's the first thing that they're asking. So they gave you all this information. Now they're saying find the inverse function. So we're going to do the 4 steps. First of the 4 steps is to replace the f of X with Y, which we kind of have. Okay. Step 2, interchange X and Y. Okay, so that's step 2. So step 1, step 2, step 3 means I have to solve for Y, and that is going to be a little bit of a booger there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 1,000, because again, I'm just trying to get rid of everything on the right-hand side. But that wasn't the problem. This is the problem. You have to either multiply that 1 plus y times 1 plus y times 1 plus I, which isn't a good idea, or take the cubed root of that and the cubed root of that, and that gives me the cubed root of x over 1,000 equals 1 plus y. That looks a lot better. This then can be broken up into the cubed root of x over the cubed root of 1,000 equals 1 plus y. Okay, so the place we're at now, the denominator, you can't have a radical in the denominator, but one of the things we know is that, is there a number that we can multiply it by itself 3 times to get 1,000, and that answer is 10. 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000, so that works. Okay, so now I just subtract 1 from both sides. And I have that, and the 4th step means replace my y with f inverse. I'm just putting that first. Okay, this thing that you got to remember, that 3 is an index. It isn't 3 times. It's a cubed root. Sometimes I make them too big. Okay, let's get rid of all this. Get that up there, because that's the formula that I'm going to need. And B says, use the inverse function, which I just found, to find the interest rate that gives a future value of $1,331. So, $1,331 is my X value. So I'm going to replace X's with okay. Take your handy-dandy calculator, find the cubed root of 1331 over 10, subtract 1, and you'll get 10%. You'll get 0.10, which is 10%. So what that means is you have to put that $1,000 in an account for 3 years, getting 10% interest in order for you to walk away with $1,331. And one of the things I want to bring up real quick, this right here. Some of you may have a key on your calculator that has a cubed root like that you can find the cubed root. Some of you don't. Some of you, gosh, I'm not sure. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but you will either have an x cubed root of y, or it could be a y of x. Okay, and what you'll do is you'll put the number, which I think you're probably the key. It probably looks like that. So you'll take your 1331, put it in first, hit this key, and then put a 3 in there for the cubed root for this key, and that will give you the answer. You'll just have to play around with your calculator and see what it does. So give it a shot on that one. All right, inverse functions on limited domains, and then we will be all done with this section. This is not really that tricky. They're just saying that sometimes you will have a function here that is not a one-to-one function. So maybe you have something like that, and it's not a one-to-one function because it does not pass a horizontal line test. But maybe you are just interested in certain numbers. Maybe you're just interested in starting at 0 and going to this way into infinity on your x-axis. You're not interested in these negative numbers. Now, if you're just interested in this part of the graph, then when you draw your horizontal lines, you only cross at one point. So that part of the graph is one-to-one. Okay, so that works. All right, so just something to remember, and you use the, exact same 4 steps in order to figure it out, in order to make this work. In fact, let's look at example number 7. And I don't understand the whole blood thing. Those of you that are going into nursing may, but they give you a formula that looks like this. Okay, when k is greater than 0 and 0 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to r. All right, so what I'm going to do is just go over the b part of it, where it says what is the inverse function, because it says here is the big formula, but for this particular problem, this is the formula I want you to use. This function, we'll call it v for velocity instead of our f. F of x, we'll call it v. Doesn't matter what letter it is. It's the same thing. Okay, so they give me this formula. I don't have any idea what that means, but I do know that I can go through the 4 steps and give the inverse. So I change that to a y. Okay, I'm going to switch my x's and y's around. Okay, that's really all I've done so far. Nothing real scary until now. I'm going to solve for y, and I'm just going to assume that you know how to solve for y. Just distribute this and this, and you end up with a y value. Well, let's just do it. 2y squared equals 0.02 minus x. Okay, because I multiplied that times that times that. Move the y, or move this value, 0.02, with the x over here. And I have the 2y squared because I multiplied this 2 times this y, and I just move things around just to make my y squared positive, or my 2y squared positive, so it just moved it to the other side of the equal sign. Divide both sides by 2, and I end up with y squared equals 0.02 minus x all over 2. So all I did was divided both sides by 2. Alright, so that gave me that. I still haven't found my y yet, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get y equals square root of 0.02. I'm just rewriting what I put up there on top. Sorry about that, 2. Okay, so I just rewrote that. Okay, so all I have to do now, my y is by itself. I'm going to change that to that, and I'm going to end up with this here. I don't like leaving my radicals in the denominator, because this radical means the radical of that over the square root of that, and I don't like the square root of 2 there. Normally I would multiply both sides by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. I'm not sure why the book didn't do that, but anyway, that's the correct way of doing it. And that's pretty much it as far as finding the inverse function of a function they give you. So that's it for 4.3.